Alright guys, we posted a little thing on Instagram a while ago about what you think this is, and a lot of you guys said potato cannon, and it's pretty close. It's a little more graphic of a potato though. When we said we were going to be installing a holding tank on our boat to keep it legal without actually having a real holding tank on our boat, this is kind of what we meant. We did the calculation, and this 2-foot piece of 4-inch PVC will hold about 2 flushes. So legally it counts as a holding tank, even though in reality it's going to exit the head, go up, out this, and straight into the ocean. So this is kind of just a loophole so that in countries where we need to have a holding tank, we'll have one. But I'm about to glue it together so that I can install it, and it takes up hardly any space. First I need to take it apart though. Yeah. Hello. So theoretically, this PVC is going to solve a couple of problems. One, it's hopefully going to keep it from smelling too bad because it's PVC, and this is what sewage is run inside of households and stuff. So it shouldn't stink. And 2, it legally counts as a holding tank because we can close a through hole and still be able to flush our toilet, even though it's probably always going to be open, because that's our cruiser's dirty little secret, is that we pretty much all poop in the ocean. Every boat we've ever met. So yeah, shouldn't smell, solves the problem of a holding tank, and it cost us maybe $10 to make it. So I hope it's gonna work. I'm gonna let this glue dry, and then I'm gonna install it. I'm starting to plumb our sort of holding tank into the head, and one of the problems I've been having is trying to figure out how to do a vented loop. If you guys don't know what that is, it's when you have a toilet that's below the water line. It needs to push the liquid up above the water line and then come back down to the through hole and out, and it needs to vent to create so that it doesn't create a siphon and suck seawater back into the toilet. Usually it's just like a loop with a little check valve at the top. But since we're plumbing the whole thing with PVC, they don't really make something for that. So what I found was a P-trap that normally goes underneath like a sink. And then it's got this little drain plug on the bottom that you'd normally use to drain out the liquid that's left in there. But I drilled a hole in it, like there. I'm probably going to drill a bigger one. And then what I did was I found a check valve. This one's made by Whale. It's an 1 1/8" check valve, and it looks kind of like this. A check valve basically is a one-way valve. You can blow air through one side, or water, and it stops it from going the other way, so it's only can flow one way. Inside of it is a little rubber thing, and what it does is it opens up when something passes through it, but then closes when something tries to push the other way. And it just so happens to fit perfectly inside of this. So well, in fact, that it requires 0 modification. Look at that. It fits in there, it screws in here, and now I have an anti-siphon valve. No air comes through. This is the head, total mess. There's a shower drain down here. It goes down through the bilge, up through here. It's right down here, this one. Comes around through here. Goes up, anti-siphon valve, down to a seacock. The problem is, this is one of those gate valves. It's above the water line, but it's still not good, and it's seized. So I've got to pull this thing off and replace it with like a normal lever seacock so that it's the right kind. And I'm also going to be installing a wastewater pump in here somewhere to take water from the sink and the shower, pump it overboard. So that's the next project. But because this thing did spin a little bit when I was taking that gate valve off. Probably gonna pop it out and rebed it because I don't want it to spin. Luckily it's above the water line, so I can do it without hauling the boat out. This thing's like really on there.
Look at that beautiful goo. So I'm waiting here for Dan. He's gonna be outside putting the through hole in that lovely hole. And then once he does that, I'll push the seat lock in.
Got it?
It's very squishy. Is it good? Alright, that was easy. Good morning, Dan.
Hello.
What's the big plan for today?
I'm excited for today. Last night I put the first coat of varnish on all these pieces of wood, which means today's tile day. So we can finally install these tiles we bought back like a month and a half ago when we first started this project. These tiles are like a peel and stick. These ones are stone, but they're really, really thin, so they don't weigh much. We're only gonna have about 6 of them here and then maybe 2 here. So it's not too much for the weight, but they're actual stone. And then we're gonna put like a vinyl tile above it. But I'm just trying to figure out the best way to lay them out and cut them so we don't end up with little slivers.
So it's thinking
And I'm still kind of sick today. Yeah, but the varnish turned out really well. It looks really good, and it actually stuck too. It didn't peel off like the other stuff did. The only downside is since it's such a small space, every tile is going to be a cut tile. Normally when you do tile and it's like 800 square feet for a kitchen or something like that, you only have to cut like the first and the last one of each row and then maybe the very last row. But every single one of these is probably going to need to be cut, so it's going to be fun. Good shit, that stuff. Not bad. First row down. Most difficult one.
How many more rows to go?
1 and like a half, and then I've got to do this. It's not really difficult. It's just once it's on, it's on. It's unlike normal tile when you could kind of like press it into the quick set and like move it around and adjust it. Once this is like 3M adhesive foam, so once it's on there, it's not coming back off. So I'm about to start putting these vinyl tiles up on this wall, and it's just comical working on boats because these tiles are 2 feet by 1 foot, and there's only going to be 2 full tiles on this whole wall. The rest are all going to be cut. Our tests held up really, really well. We stuck some of these to a piece of Formica when we first got them, and they're like borderline impossible to get back off. So whatever glue they use on the back of these things is it's really good stuff. I should probably get a laminate roller, squish them on there. Last night I finished installing all of the vinyl tiles and the stone tiles, and they look really good. So the last thing to do, well, one of the last things to do. The next thing to do is going to be installing the cabinet doors I've had them built, but now I just need to install the hinges, make sure everything lines up, sand, finish, all that jazz. This fancy little drill bit is for installing these fancy little hinges, which are stainless steel, so they should hold up pretty well in the head. But I'm trying not to make a mess, so I'm going to use a vacuum cleaner. Alright, this is actually my first time working with Corian, but it's the fourth time making the top for our Vanity. These little end pieces are very, very thin, and I've made it almost all the way to done 3 times now and ended up snapping the arms off. So this time I've made like a jig to hold everything still, and hopefully I'll be able to finish this time. It's pretty easy to work with. It's mostly just sanding, going up through the grit, starting with 80, going all the way up to like 1500 or so, and then polishing it. But yeah, it's pretty easy to work with. Just a lot of sanding. It looks good too. Turned out really well. You can kind of see the seam if you like really look for it, but pretty much disappeared. So not bad for 3rd time's the charm, I guess. Now let's go put it on the boat. Pretty. Yeah, Neil said he had to look for the seam. He's like, if you didn't tell me there's a seam there, I wouldn't have seen it. What? You ready? Well, it took a little while to figure out how to, the best way to put hinges on the bottom of this cabinet so it folds out. We had a lot of ideas and a lot of them could probably work, but the thing that none of them solved except for this was the ability to take this whole thing in and out easily without removing like the shelf above it. Because these little tabs right here are what stop this whole thing from going forwards and falling out. And so what I ended up doing was putting hinges on the bottom of this fold out part and then leaving the bottom part of the hinge unattached. It's not screwed into anything. And then I made out of PVC like a little bracket that hinge slides down into, and it works really well and it's really solid. So it's time to put this thing in. Just like that. Ooh. So it lines up so well. Oh yeah. That's awesome. Look, now you can like sit on the toilet and wash your hands. That's how small our head is. Well, that'll be about all we do on the head for now. The rest of it we can finish later. We got to finish plumbing in the faucets and like the shower. We're gonna finish plumbing in the pressure, the saltwater pressure pump. We got some more work to do in here. Wire the toilet, plumb the toilet. We have a through hull to install. LED lights, paint the ceiling, paint the floor. We got a lot of more work to do, but it's a pretty good stopping place now. So we're gonna take a pause from this project and work on another one.